aspirants, welcome to Narayana IAS. This is Karthik Moni. I'm here for daily news analysis. In today's session, we have picked up 7 articles from the Hindu newspaper as well as Indian Express. The first article is related to the adultery. Then we have an article related to recent direction on generic medicines, and then article related to the state funding of election. Then we have an article related to the subcategorization within the scheduled caste, and then we have a exclusive prelims article related to cryogenic engine, then the Voice of Global South Summit, and finally the Asian Defense Ministerial Meeting Plus. Coming to the first article, we have crime of adultery, what Supreme Court ruled and why. So exam point of view, we can expect a specific question related to adultery, that is also possible. And also we can expect question related to the reforms in criminal justice system. So moving to the context, recently the Union government proposed new 3 legislations to replace the existing laws such as Indian Penal Code, CRPC, and then Indian Evidence Acts. So these are the 3 major laws related to the criminal justice system in India. So they wanted to replace these 3 old legislations with new bills, right? So as of now, the Parliamentary Committee on Home Affairs is examining the merits of the bill. So they suggested that adultery should be reinstituted as a crime in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So this is the context of this article. So in order to know more about it, more about the issue, we have to know about the legal provisions related to the adultery. Coming to the legal provisions, till 2018, the section 497 under IPC defined adultery as a criminal offense and attracts up to 5 years of imprisonment and also fine or both. So till 2018, adultery was a crime under IPC. But there is a problem that it penalizes only the men and not the women. So that is the problem. So now we have to know about the judicial intervention. In 2018, in the Joseph Shine versus Union of India, a 5-judge bench anonymously struck down the section 497, and it cited that this provision is discriminatory in nature. Now we have to know about the issues in the existing provision. So first thing is discriminatory in nature. Yes, we know that this section is penalizing only the men, not the women, which means it manifests the arbitrariness. So that is the problem. And also it violates the fundamental rights. Yes, Article 14, 15 and 21 is getting violated. So 14 and 15, because the gender aspects, it's differentiating or it's discriminating. So in this aspect, Article 14 and 15 is getting violated. And from the Article 21, yes, it is affecting the right to privacy, which means the right to life with dignity is getting. So it is discriminatory in nature and also it is affecting the fundamental rights of 14, 15 and 20. And second important issue is that it is having the materialistic perspective. That the section itself implied that the husband is the master of his wife and is having the legal sovereignty over. So it is problematic in nature because it affects the autonomy of the women and also it affects the dignity of the women. It reduces the women to the materialistic perspective. So that is the another issue. And finally, we have the problem of irrational differentiation. Here, if the extramarital relationship is having with the consent of the husband, it is not at all an offense. So it is irrational in nature and also it doesn't permit the wife to sue the husband if he is in the extramarital relationship with a girl. So it is having irrational differentiation. So it perpetuates discrimination first thing, and it is also having the materialistic perspective, and also it is having the irrational differentiation. So these are the three major areas regarding the issues related to the existing provision. So now we have to know about the committee's recommendation. Yes, the parliamentary committee proposed that the adultery should be reinstated as a criminal offense, but it should be gender neutral in nature. So that is the, which means both men and women should be punished for the adulterous relationship. So that is what the committee proposed, and also they cited, they given the justification that the institution of marriage is considered as sacred in the Indian society. So in order to safeguard the institution of marriage, we need such deterrent provisions. So that is the justification given by the committee. Now there is a question. Yes, judiciary intervened in 2018 and struck out the provision. Now the legislature wanted to include it into the BNS. So is it possible or not? So yes, Supreme Court's direction is the law of the land. It is fundamental in nature. So the parliament cannot simply pass a law that contradicts the ruling. Yes, it is accepted, but still it is possible, because if the legislation is removing the problematic provisions, then this legislation is possible. So this recent bill with having adultery as a criminal provision is legally possible. Right? So, and also we have to know that the standing committee inferred in such a way that the section 497 was struck down by the judiciary on the grounds of discrimination. So if you are making some gender neutral provisions, then it is accepted. So this is the assumption behind the parliamentary standing committee's suggestion. But we have to think from the other dimension as well, because having adultery into this new legislation will have other consequences that we have to know. So coming to the implication part, we'll be having the legal ramifications. So already the existing judiciary is facing the problem of like huge burden. So that is there. So if you are including adultery into the picture, so adultery itself having the inbuilt problems such as the burden of proof and also invasion of privacy, those complexities are involved. So this will clog the judiciary over a period of time. So that is possible. And second thing is that impact on relationship. So if we are keeping adultery as an offense or criminal offense, there will be a fear of legal consequence between the couple. So it will separate the couple. The possibility of driving a secretive behavior is possible, which means it reduces the possibility of addressing the root cause of this extramarital relationship is not possible. So that is there. And also privacy concern is also there. So during legal investigations, during trial procedures, there is a possibility of invasive measures that can intrude into the intimate and personal matters. So in this aspect, it can affect the privacy of the individual, and it creates distress and discomfort. So that is possible. The gender neutrality in implementing this provision is also a question mark. So even though we are proposing the section as gender neutral in aspect, but when it comes to the actual implementation, it is not possible to guarantee the gender equality, because already we have the social bias, societal bias regarding this adultery. So during trial, this existing social bias can have an influence that can turn against the man. So that is possible. And also the possibility are having implications in social attitudes. So this provision are having adultery as a criminal offense will reiterate reinforce the social stigmas associated with the failed marriages and extramarital relations. So in this aspect, it hinders the progress towards more open discussion about the relationship and individual at all. Finally, it will also affect diverse, because if you are having adultery as a criminal procedure, a criminal offense, then adultery cannot be cited as a reason for divorce. So it will complicate the divorce procedures if someone is experiencing or someone is in the extramarital relationship. So divorce provisions will get complicated because of recriminalizing the adultery. So that is also possible. And finally, the way forward. So before bringing adultery into the new legislation, we have to think about the broader implications, such as how it will influence the social attitude, how it impacts the privacy and the well-being of the individual, and the family has to be considered, and also we have to consider the efficacy of having this provision. So holistic approach should be there to address this. And also we have to think from the perspective of Supreme Court's decision. So upholding the Supreme Court's decision is very much important to have a coherent legal framework. Finally, it is better to place or have legal recourse of adultery within the civil law or under family courts. By doing so, the grievance related to the adultery can be addressed in a productive manner without affecting the personal privacy. Next, we have an article related to the generic medicine. So exam point of view, we can expect question related to generic drugs, branded drugs, and also the prelims examination, we can expect question related to the schemes such as Pradhan Mantri Aushadhi Pariyojana. Moving to the context, recently in August 2023, the National Medical Commission came up with the direction that all registered medical practitioners have to prescribe only the generic names of the medicine. So this direction was proposed under Registered Medical Practitioners Professional Conduct Regulation 2023. Otherwise, those practitioners will be punished. So that is the direction. Yes, so it is very important to propose or to prescribe the generic medicine because it will reduce the expenditure of the individual. But the problem is that the practitioners, the doctors are showing opposition for this direction because we have some underlying issues to be addressed before implementing this direction. So exam point of view, let's try to know about the comparison between the branded drugs and the generic drugs. So this is the comparison. So in terms of active ingredients, both branded drugs as well as the generic drugs used to have the same chemical composition. In terms of effectiveness, the branded drugs have to undergo the rigorous clinical trial to get the approval. So the creation will be happening here, and after that, the generic drug, they'll do the demonstration of the having bioequivalence to the branded drug. So in this aspect, the efficiency will get improved. And third aspect, cost aspect. Yes, the cost of the branded drugs are expensive in nature, whereas the generic drugs are comparatively cheaper in nature. And apart from that, from the patent perspective, the branded drugs used to have patent protection up to 20 years, but that is not the case in the generic drug. And apart from that, marketing, yes, huge marketing will be there for the branded drugs to create brand identity. So marketing, they'll do heavy marketing by the pharmaceutical companies, but that will not be the case for the generic drugs. And finally, the availability. So comparatively limited in nature when it comes to the branded drugs, but it is not the case for the generic drugs. So it is available. Generic drugs are widely available in the market. So this is the comparison between branded drug and the generic drug. Now we have to know about the arguments. We'll think about the arguments, why they are against, why the doctors are in favor of suggesting branded drugs. So first thing, that if the doctors are not prescribing, then there is a possibility that the pharmacist or salespersons will take the liberty in suggesting the drugs. So there is a possibility. So this will undermine the overall system. Why? Because there is a possibility of suggesting substandard drugs. So that is also possible. Second thing is quality issue. So we identified that in the market, the rate of the spurious and non-standard quality medicines, the availability of the spurious and non-standard generic medicines, look at the number, it is 4.5% and 3.4%. So yes, we are facing some problem in terms of quality when it comes to the generic drugs. So this is also a problem. Here, the doctors are not prescribing because it is unethical. If the quality is compromised, it is unethical for them to prescribe. So only when the quality aspect is improved, then only we can expect the medical practitioners to prescribe generic medicines. So that is also there. So one aspect, there is a possibility of the pharmacist taking the liberty, and the other side we have the problem of having substandard drugs. So that's why the doctors are favoring branded drugs. So this is the arguments in favoring the doctor side. On the other hand, like we have to know about why we want to prescribe generic medicines. The first thing is that there is a myth in the market that only the branded drugs are qualitative in nature. So it is not ethical practice. So artificially creating such propaganda is problematic in nature. Ultimately, it affects the individual, and also it will disturb the market of medicine. That is also there. And second thing is that there is a conflict of interest. So we can able to see the nexus between pharmaceutical companies and doctors, and the doctors are getting influenced by the incentives so that the doctors will prescribe the branded drugs. So this is unethical in nature. This should not be encouraged. So this is the second dimension. And finally, and most importantly, the cost. Yes, affordability is an issue because the cost of branded drugs are very high. The healthcare cost can be a significant burden to the households. That is possible, and especially it can affect the population from rural area and also from the population who are from the low socio-economic status. So cost is also a matter of concern that we have to consider. So these are the two dimensions why we are proposing and why we are not, right? Now we have to know that what we can do, right? So first thing is that the government has to ensure the quality. So how we are going to do? So here we can suggest that the periodic sampling or periodic audit of quality of the generic medicine has to be tested, right? If the quality is compromised, the government has to take a stringent punitive action against the manufacturers so that the reputation of such quality compromise will not be there, right? And also exam point of view, we have to know about the best practices in India. Yes, Tamil Nadu is doing good. Tamil Nadu Medical Service Corporation Limited is working on that to improve the quality of the generic medicines. So they created the technological platform through information technology. The supplied medicines were kept under quarantine stock till the double blinded samples are cleared in the quality testing, both by the government and as well as by the private laboratories. So then only when we got the receipt of past quality test report, then only the stock will be entered, right? In this aspect, the Tamil Nadu is ensuring the quality of the generic. So similar practices has to be implemented across the India. So next we have to know about the initiatives to promote the generic medicine. The first, we have a scheme known as Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. So in this scheme, the government wanted to promote the quality of generic medicine. That's the first aspect. And also they wanted to increase the accessibility of medicines at the affordable price. So the second objective. How they are doing? They are opening more retail stores named Jan Aushadhi Kendra. That is nothing but the selling outlets for such generic medicines. So in this scheme, the price will be comparatively low. So when compared to the branded drugs, the price is 60 to 70% lower than the market price. That is there. And also quality is also good. So that is also there. And finally, we have to know that the accessibility of the medicine is getting increased by having around 9998 Jan Aushadhi Kendras. So the government is proactive in increasing the physical accessibility and economic accessibility of generic medicines by having or by opening more number of Jan Aushadhi outlets. Next, we have an article related to the state funding of the election. So exam point of view, we can expect mains question in this topic. So that's why we are discussing this article. So moving to the context part, recently the constitutional bench headed by the Chief Justice of India recently reserved its judgments on petition challenging the validity of electoral bond scheme. So in this aspect, we have to know that whether the state funding can be a viable option to address the existing challenges of electoral funding. So first we have to know that why, in what aspect the state funding is important and in what aspect it will ensure the free and fair election. First one is, yes, it will provide a level playing field. So from the data that approximately 80% of the fund is from the unknown sources. So anonymity is there. So which means the level playing field is not possible. So there is a possibility that the larger political parties can have more funds, can have more access to the fund. In this aspect, it will affect the level playing field. Give upper hand to the larger parties when compared to the smaller parties. So next, transparency is not there. So we know that the problem with the electoral bond scheme is that anonymity. If the source is anonymous, which means the transparency is not there, we can't able to check the source of the fund, which means ultimately it's affecting the transparency of funding. So in order to address this problem, this state funding is very much important. We can see this as an important alternative. So here transparency is possible because the funding is happening or it is channeled through the government. It is done by the government. So that's why transparency will be there. So next important aspect is the restoring the public trust. So if you are not having transparency, if the mechanism is not transparent, if anonymity is there in the electoral funding, the public trust will get affected. The trust on the electoral process among the citizens will get affected. Look at the number. Only 41% of the citizen, as per the Transparency International report, in the world trust the process of election, which means the trust on electoral process is getting reduced, which means it is the existing anonymous state funding process is undermining the principle of democracy itself, the functioning of democracy itself. So that is a problem. And also there is a problem in ensuring equality. So the state funding is having a inbuilt capacity to ensure equality. The divide between the larger parties and the smaller parties will be addressed. So large versus small party divide will be addressed. So irrespective of the size of the party, they'll be having access to the fund. In this aspect, the equality is ensured. Finally, in order to reduce corruption, if we are expecting the parties to fund of their own from the private contributions, there is a possibility of increase in corruption. So in order to reduce the corruption, we can see state funding as an alternative option. So next, we have to know about the preconditions which are necessary for implementing the state fund. The first thing is the availability of money, because the amount which involved in the electoral process is very high. So it will impact the exchequer, or it impacts the finance of the state. So we have to consider the revenue perspectives. So from the previous data, we get to know that the 2024 general election would cost around $8 billion. So the number is huge, which means the state has to be prepared enough in terms of revenue to think about the state funding. Second aspect is the criteria. So there should be a standard viable criteria for the state funding. So we have the different sizes, different categories of parties in India. Being a multi-party system in India, we should have a standard viable criteria for the state funding. So that is also a problem. So having or creating consensus to have such criteria is also a difficult thing. So that is there. And apart from that, it will impact the party's independence. How? The party in power, the government is capable enough to influence the parties who are receiving fund from the state. That is possible. And also on the other go, the parties also can have a nexus with the ruling party who is having the government, so that the party's political independence will get affected. And finally, they have to know that there is a possibility of, here also there is a possibility of abuse and corruption. So there is an example, that Calciopoli scandal in Italy. So in this scandal, the state fund for the political party was misused for the individual needs. Such kind of abuse is also possible here. So we have to think from the larger perspective to implement the state funding. Coming to the next article, we have subcategorization within caste. So exam point of view, we can expect question related to the reservation in the mains examination, and also we can expect direct question related to the subcategorization of SC itself. That is also possible. Moving to the context, recently in the election rally, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi promised to have the possibility of subcategorization of scheduled caste to identify and to help the most backward scheduled caste among the overall scheduled caste population. So that is the context. So in this aspect, we have to know about the background first. So this is the background. In 1996, the Andhra Pradesh government, the state government, appointed a one-man commission, Ramchandra Raju Commission, for the possibility of subcategorization of scheduled caste. But later in 2004, the Supreme Court rejected this opinion, and it cited that the states are not authorized to do the subcategorization of the communities in the list of SC and ST. So it's a controversial the decision, because the states are allowed to have a subcategorization within the backward caste. So if that is possible, why not in scheduled caste and scheduled tribe? So that's the question. Later, many other states tried this. The example of Punjab and also the example of Tamil Nadu. So recently in 2020, the Supreme Court changes its opinion that the states have the power for subcategorization. So the opinion of the Supreme Court has changed over a period of time. So now we have to look into the merits of having subcategorization. Yes, it is very much important, because there is an unequal access to the resources, and also unequal distribution of benefits is also there. And in order to enhance the efficiency of the policies, we need subcategorization. And also, in order to promote the social mobility and inclusion, we need subcategorization among the scheduled caste population. So here I have to highlight few things. So unequal distribution of benefits. So look at the numbers. The literacy rates among Valmiki scheduled caste section is only 40%. Among Jatavs, it is over 70%. Look at the disparity, 70 on one side and then 40 on the other side, which means the benefits of the government policy is not reaching in an equal manner. So that is why we are highlighting that we need such subcategorization. So look into the next aspects. The dropout rates among the scheduled caste girls from Mala and Dobi communities is significantly higher. So we need tailored intervention. So having such a targeted intervention, we can increase the access of benefits to such communities. And also we can pull them out of these developmental blocks. Now we have to know about the issues raised by the National Commission for Scheduled Caste. It came up with an opinion that the subcategorization will not address the root cause of the problem. And also, it came up with the idea that the, the scheduled caste population doesn't have enough candidate to represent the reserved seats at the higher level. So this is the problem cited by the National Commission. But from our perspective, we are saying that it is irrational in nature because it is going against the spirit of reservation itself. Now we have to know about the challenges to undertake the subcategorization of SCs. Yes, lack of consensus is there. So within the community itself, there are lack of consensus. From the reports, Indian Institute of Dalit Studies, it highlighted that only 32% of the scheduled caste population supported the subcategorization, and rest, that is 45% opposed it. So that is the first problem. And second thing is that the states are also not willing. Around 14 states disagreed with the decision, and only 7 states are agreed for such subcategorization. Apart from that, data availability is also a problem. Yes, in the decadal census, we have the number of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. So we have a separate assessment of the population is there. But segregation of individual scheduled caste population details are not available. So lack of data is also another problem. So as of now, we have the data of 1931, which is highly outdated in nature. We need a separate socio-economic caste census to implement this policy. And apart from that, the fragmentation risk is also there. So it is identified that around 38% of the scheduled caste express the concern that having such subcategorization will create a divide among the scheduled caste population. So that is what the opinion which they are having. So these are some of the challenges in implementing, in having subcategorization. So next we have to know about the way forward. The first thing is we need inclusive approach. So here we have to get the consensus from the population itself. As of now, there is a difference of opinion about the subcategorization within the SC population, so that we have to engage with the SC representatives to generate the consensus, and also we have to conduct a survey, and also we have to collaborate with the experts and other stakeholders in the society to bring consensus for the implementation of this subcategorization. Apart from that, data is very important. Data, and we have to work for the data enhancement. So for that, we have to conduct caste census first, and that too, it has to be done in a transparent manner. For that, we have to create transparent data systems, and also we have to use technology to improve the data quality and accessibility. Finally, the implementation phase. We have to do it in a phased manner. So here we can try it as a pilot project in the selected area, and also we can have a monitoring mechanism to check the efficacy, and also we can also try with the independent evaluator to check the efficiency, and then we can implement the same to the other regions. Next, we have an article related to the cryogenic engine. Exam point of view, we can expect direct prelims question related to the engine and also the launch vehicle LVM-3. And also we can expect some question related to our aspirational project Chandrayaan-3 also. Moving to the context, recently the ISRO launched a trial run of LVM-3 mission 4. So in that mission, we faced the problem that the cryogenic upper stage was not functioning properly, and because of that, the re-entry was not controlled properly. So this mission is very important because we are going to try this LVM-3 to launch our aspirational Chandrayaan-3 mission. So now we have to know about the basic details behind the launch vehicle and also the cryogenic engine. The first thing is that it is a three-stage space launch vehicle operated by ISRO, and it is used to launch satellites in the geosynchronous transfer orbit approximately at the height of 37,000 kilometers from the ground level. Right? Now we have to know about the stages. Stage 1, we have two solid propellant of S200 strap-on booster motors. For example, if this is the core of the rocket, we'll be having this strap-on boosters on the adjacent sides, right? So first one is a solid stage. We are using hydroxyl terminated butadiene. This is the propellant, solid propellant which we are using. And second one is the liquid stage. This stage is powered by Vikas engine, and the second stage is powered by unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine and also nitrogen tetroxide. So these are the two propellants which we are using in the second liquid core stage. In the third stage, we have cryogenic engine. So that is C25. For that, we are using liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen as a fuel and oxidizer, and this liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen has to be kept in the minus 200 degrees Celsius. So this is also there, and this is very significant because it is specifically launched, it is specifically designed to launch heavy weight communication satellites. So next we have to know about the cryogenic engine. So as we already know, it uses liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. So liquid oxygen as a oxidizer and liquid hydrogen as a fuel. The important thing is that it has to be kept under extremely low temperature. And second thing is that the application, it used to boost the upper stage, the final stage of the launch vehicle. So that is the application. And also we have to know about the advantages. The first thing is that it can achieve greater payload fraction. That's why we are using this to launch the communication satellites. And apart from that, it is non-toxic in nature and non-corrosive in nature, so that it is easy to handle and it is easy to store. And apart from that, it is environmental friendly in nature because we are using hydrogen and oxygen. The exhaust will be water vapor. So it is environmental friendly in nature, and the problem is that it is complex in nature. So specialized equipment is needed to handle and store. And apart from that, you have to know that the costs involved is very high. So it is expensive in nature. So for the development and also for manufacturing cryogenic engine, like we need huge resources. But India as a country, we are aspiring to become a major space player. So in order to do that, we have to develop our own capacity of cryogenic engines. Coming to the next article, we have India to host second Voice of Global South Summit today. We can expect some prelims question from this article. Direct Global South Summit related facts is possible, and also we have to know about the concept of Global South, and also we have to know about the facts related to G20. Coming to the context, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the second, the Voice of Global South Summit on November 17. So this is the second time we are conducting this summit. So previously we conducted this summit in January this year. So coming to the terminology, that is Global South, it is a representation of the nation characterized by a relatively low level of economic and industrial development, typically situated in the south of industrialized nation. So we have to know about the idea behind the terminology Global South. Yes, it represents the nations, the characterized by the low economic status. And also geographically, it is little south to the industrial nations. That's why we are using the term Global South, right? About the summits, New Delhi hosted the Voice of Global South Summit as a part of G20 presidency. The theme of this summit is energy security and development. So in this summit, around 125 countries participated across the world, and it is important because it gave the India gave the voice for the representation of uh, less represented regions such as Latin America, Africa, and Oceania. This year, as an outcome of Voice of Global South Summit, the African Union became the 21st member at the New Delhi Summit. So next we have to know about the facts related to G20 grouping. So it is a premium institution for the international economic cooperation. So remember that this grouping is known for the economic cooperation, right? So this year, the India holds the presidency. So between 1st December 2022 to 30 November 2023. So this summit used to held annually under the leadership of rotating presidency. And also we have to know about the background. So it was founded in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis, and in this forum, the finance ministers and the central bank governors will discuss the global economic and financial issues. I already mentioned that it is the economic grouping. So that's why the finance ministers and the central bank governors are participating. That to discuss the global economic and financial issues. And also we have to know about the membership. So we have 19 countries. Look at the countries: Australia, Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Russia, then UK and United States. Apart from that, we also have two regional bodies. One is European Union, and finally we have African Union that was added in 2023. Next, we have an article: unimpeding freedom of navigation is vital. It was expressed by Home Minister Rajnath Singh. So exam point of view, we can expect questions related to ADM Plus, and also we can expect question related to regional organization such as ASEAN and also the international treaty UN clause. So context of this article: recently the ADM Plus meeting was conducted, that is Asian Defense Ministerial meeting. The 10th session was held in Jakarta, Indonesia. So from this point of view, we have to know about the institutions and the treaty for the exam part. First, we have ADM Plus. So it is a platform of defense ministers of 10 Asian member and also 8 dialogue partners. So from the Asian, we have 10 members, and apart from that, we have 8 other dialogue partners. So who are they? So we have India and China, then Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and Republic of Korea, that is South Korea, and then Russia, and then United States. So here there is a strategy to remember these 8 nations, right? So Russia and US, then India and China, right? Then we have 4 other nations on the Indo-Pacific region, that is Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. So 4 nations from Indo-Pacific region, and then India and China, then Russia and US. So 8 dialogue partners. So this initiative was started in 2010. And apart from that, within the Asian grouping, we have 5 founding members, that is Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore and Thailand. So after that, 5 other members joined. They are Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. So almost all the Southeast Asian nations are under the Asian group. So with respect to this ADM Plus meeting, this was started, the idea got started in 2007 Singapore meeting, that is second Asian Defense Ministers meeting. So in that meeting, they wanted to include the dialogue partners. They wanted to include the major powers such as Russia and USA, and also the powers, major powers in India, that is Asia, that is India and China, and also other major players in the Indo-Pacific region as well. So this idea cropped in 2007, and after that, so it was actually started in 2010, and after that it was happening as an annual meeting among the ministers. So now we have to know about the objectives. So first objective is to get the political consensus. So it is a forum of defense ministers to engage in dialogue and exchange views and build consensus on regional security. So we need a platform to have a consensus among the defense related issues. So it's a political platform. So consensus building is the major objective. So when we think about the areas, it is clear that the aspects of regional security. So what are they? The piracy, terrorism, and illegal fishing. So it covers the comprehensive aspect of security, regional security. So that too, they wanted to ensure this regional security in the Asia Pacific region. Why? Because the strategic and economical importance of this region is increasing. The geodynamics of the global world is changing towards Indo-Pacific region. So that's why the nations are showing more importance to Indo-Pacific region. So apart from that, they wanted to give more importance to counter-terrorism measures, especially the sharing intelligence, and they wanted to have a wanted to bring the expertise in one platform to combat terrorism. So apart from these areas, we want to collaborate for the humanitarian assistance and disaster during natural disaster. So in order to increase the humanitarian measures, in order to give or in order to have a quick response to the natural disasters. Apart from that, this cooperation is also looking to strengthen the cyber security cooperation. So they wanted to enhance the resilience of the nations in terms of cyber security. So apart from this, we have to know about the UN clause. It is nothing but a international treaty established to have a legal framework for all marine and maritime activities. It came into force in 1994. The key principles are to ensure the freedom of navigation. So it highlighted that all the states, the sovereign states, are having a right to freedom of navigation in the high seas, which means the areas which doesn't comes under the territorial jurisdiction of the sovereign state. So in the high seas, all the nations are having the right, the freedom to navigate. So that is highlighted, and also it talks about the exclusive economic zone. So which means, for example, consider this as a territory. So the region till 200 nautical miles, from the coast to 200 nautical miles, the region in between region is considered as exclusive economic zone. Right? So try to remember the number. It is 200 nautical miles. It's not kilometer or the normal miles. So remember that it is nautical miles. So here the sovereign state is having the exclusive right to explore, exploit, conserve and manage the natural resources. Yes, economical perspective, and also the subsoil and also the overlying waters, control over the overlying waters. So the sovereign state is having the exclusive right on the resources on this region. So that is the, and apart from that, the beyond this 200 nautical mile, we are considering this as high sea, right? So here the exploration and exploitation of resources carried out for the benefits of all the mankind. So it becomes a common resource beyond exclusive economic zone, that is beyond 200 nautical miles. It is the international seabed area in which the territorial, the limit will not be applicable, so that it is common to every nation and joint utilization and reaping the benefits for the entire mankind is allowed. Now let's try some of the prelims practice questions. So consider the following statements. In India, the national list of essential medicine is released by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. So this statement is little confusing because the list is released by the Ministry of Health, whereas the pricing was fixed by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. So here the statement is little confusing and also it is wrong because this list, the national list of essential medicine, is released by the Ministry of Health. Second statement, in India, CDSO is a responsible agency for approval of drugs, conduct of clinical trials, laying down the standards for the drug. Yes, it is true. So first statement is wrong, second statement is correct. Third statement, the government of India can control the supply of drugs under Essential Commodities Act 1955. Yes, it is correct. So first statement is wrong, second and third statement is correct. So option is C, 2 and 3 only. Yes, answer is C. Second question, which of the following group are all four countries are members of G20? So we have Argentina, Mexico, South Africa and Turkey. Yes, there is a possibility. Second, we have Australia, Palestine. So this is little odd in nature because G20 is the international grouping which is having a major economic countries. So in this aspect, we can rule out the option D. Option C, Brazil, Iran, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. This is also little odd in nature because having Iran and Pakistan. So those two nations are not economically pro in this aspect. So we can rule out C as well. And finally, we have Indonesia, Japan and Afghanistan. So here there is a clue. So D is also wrong. So we are going with the option A. Yes, option A is true. Consider the following countries. So first we have Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Canada, UK, Italy. So how many of the above countries are among the Asian Defense Ministerial Meeting Plus? So we know that we have 10 nations under Asia and then 8 dialogue partners. Yes, we know that in the Indo-Pacific region, we had Japan, South Korea, and then Australia and New Zealand. So Australia is there, Japan is there, New Zealand is there. So apart from that, no, Canada is not there, UK is not there, and Italy is also not there. We know that these 10 countries are from Southeast Asia, and rest of the nations we have India and China, and also we have US and Russia. So we can rule out 4, 5 and 6. So option is A, only 3. Yes, option A is correct. So next question, with reference to the cryogenic engine, consider the following statements. These engines use propellants that are non-corrosive. A is true, but toxic. No, it is non-toxic. So this statement is wrong. Going to the second statement, they utilize environmentally friendly propellants producing no harmful emission. Yes, it is true because we are using hydrogen and oxygen. So the emission is water. So it is environmental friendly. So second statement is correct, first statement is wrong. Third statement, cryogenic engines or the solo type of rocket engines. No, this is wrong. We are using this engine in LVM3, so which is 3-stage rocket which have solid, liquid and cryogenic. So third statement is also wrong. So option is A, one only. Yes, option A is correct. Now let's try one mains question as well. Subcategorization of scheduled caste has been a long debated issue in India. Discuss the arguments in for and against the subcategorization and critically evaluate its potential impact on the scheduled caste community. So here we have to know that it is a 3-part question. So first part, we have to present the idea of the arguments in favor. Then we have to present the arguments against. And then we have to give them the evaluation how far it is effective. So this point, that is impact. So we have to give equal weightage to 3 parts, and then we have to add intro, and then we have to add conclusion. So this is the idea. So intro part, what we can do is we can add the idea of the SC population number. We can tell them that okay, in India we have this many percentage of population as scheduled caste population, and then we can tell them that okay, around 33% of the population, the poor population, is from the scheduled caste. So we can tell them that they are socially as well as economically deprived. So that can be a possible introduction, and then we can give the arguments in favor. Yes, how it will increase the effectivity of the policy, how will it increases the benefits in reaching the poorest section among the scheduled caste. We can give all those arguments which we discussed. And the problem is that the arguments against the subcategories. So for that, what we can do is we can bring the implementational practical challenges. We can tell them that okay, data is not there, and then we can tell them that consensus is not there. So those aspects we can present it for the statements or arguments against the subcategorization, and then we can tell them the impacts, how it will improve the social improvement of the poorest section. Finally, give them that conclusion. So in the conclusion, we can tell them that the arguments in favor of having subcategorization is more relevant, and also we can tell them that the government and all other institutions have to come together to implement this policy for the welfare of the poorest section among the scheduled caste. That's the end of the session. So don't forget to like, share and comment the video, and also subscribe the channel. Thank you all.